In this video, I added the periodic table of elements to Minecraft. But it isn't as boring as it actually sounds. I also added the ability to convert almost any item into its elemental form and back. Let's get into how I made it. So here we are in a new flat world, and today I had this amazing idea. I'm going to make the periodic table of elements inside of Minecraft and let you convert basically any item into its elemental form. So you can throw in an item and it'll spit some periodic elements out, and then you can throw them back in and return the item into its original form. So I think it's pretty cool, but we actually have to start coding it now. So the first thing we're going to do is add some custom crafting recipes, and instead of adding them to the actual crafting table, instead we're going to throw them on the ground and then make them detect that and then give the item to the player. So this should already work. So if I throw an enchantment table and a cauldron on the ground together, they should create a custom item called the Elementifier, which will turn any item into its elemental form. So it's called Elementifier. Drop me on the floor to create an Elementifier. So it doesn't really work yet, and also it looks like a book. So we're gonna need a custom resource pack for this. Just give me a few minutes.
A few minutes later.
Alright, so the resource pack should be done. Let's see here. It should be, there it is. If I load this, this should show a custom texture for the Elementifier. There we go. This texture is actually stolen from Minecraft Education Edition. I only just edited the colors and added it to the game. Okay, so now if you throw it on the ground, it is supposed to create a cauldron, which you can then throw your items into, and then it'll turn them into elements. So that should also be working now. So if I throw them on the ground, there we go. So it doesn't really do anything right now. Also, it looks kind of bland. It just looks like a normal cauldron that's basically useless. So let's change that. Let's add some cool effects to this cauldron. Alright, so it should be done now. We're actually going to make a new one because I added something that you'll see in a moment here. I added a name tag above the cauldron to indicate that this is an Elementifier, because if we're going to make the Objectifier, it's also going to be a cauldron, so otherwise it'd be impossible to tell what you're actually placing here. But I also added these portal particles. It's still basically useless. If you throw something in here like this polished diorite, it doesn't do anything. So we still have to code actual mechanics for converting the items into elements. Alright, so I've thought a bit of the logic behind this, and I've actually thought that it might be a good idea to add a custom item which is going to be called an elemental shard. And the conversion will only happen when that elemental shard is in there. So how do you actually obtain this item? So if I just spawn an enderman right here. Hello. We're just gonna kill this guy real fast. Die, die. As you can see, I have obtained an elemental shard. I want this water bucket to turn into H2O, 2 hydrogen elements and 1 oxygen element. But the first thing we actually have to do is add every single element to Minecraft. Alright, so I couldn't really add every single element because otherwise I'd spent literally 100 hours on this. But I already spent 3 hours adding as many as I could. I think I went up to like 35. It should give me every single element. There we go. It perfectly fills up my inventory, which is probably also why I chose this number. Mojang, if you're watching this, please don't hurt me. I'm just trying to make something cool. So if I throw this into the Elementifier, as you can see, nothing happens because I do not have an elemental shard yet. And bada boom. There we go. It actually worked first try, which is a surprise since my coding sucks. So I also encountered this issue that when your inventory is full of items, it still gives you the items, but it doesn't drop them on the ground if there's no space. I made the system to detect how much free space there is in your inventory. If I throw them in right now, with my full inventory, as you can see, it just doesn't work, and it displays this little message saying my inventory is too full. All I have to do now really is add a bunch more. Give me a few hours and I think I'll have about 15 of these ready.
Several days later.
I have actually added 15 elemental conversions. So let's actually try out a few of these. So I'm gonna give myself quite a few of these elemental shards first, so that we have enough. Then let's try a diamond, for example. Now for this you're gonna need quite a few empty inventory slots because, well, you'll see what happens. It basically gives you 10 carbon elements because that's the only element in diamond. We're also gonna try a milk bucket, why not? There we go. But there's a problem, this doesn't really work yet because what are you gonna do with these now? So that's why I also added the Objectifier. It's currently only an item. It doesn't actually do anything yet, but you can also craft it using a cauldron and a brewing stand, if I remember correctly. So if you throw them on the ground together, they create the Objectifier. So I'm gonna throw this on the ground. There we go. So this one also has the cool particles and a name, but it doesn't do anything right now. So this may seem pretty simple, and it is quite simple. It's just copy pasting this over and over for each conversion, but actually changing the values, especially if there's like conversions with 10 or more elements, it gets quite difficult. So give me a few moments and I'll have some more ready.
Eventually.
Alright, so I've added a few more right here. So for the Objectifier, you also have to add an elemental shard together with all of your elements. So this is, I don't really remember what this makes, but we'll find out when throwing them all in. And boom. Oh, it made milk. So you can see it worked perfectly. Killed all of the items, I got my milk. Made a little sound effect. And this should work for pretty much every item, so let's do a few conversions. First, let's take some elemental shards, and let's take cobblestone, for example. So if I throw it in here, you get 1 silicon, 2 oxygen. So throw those all in there. We get our cobblestone back. So that's how it works. So you can also just take elements from one block and then use them to create another block. So it really just opens up a lot of possibilities. But that doesn't really mean it's easy to remember how they work. So for that, I'm going to add something else. I'm going to add an elemental recipe book. So it should already work. So if I give myself the custom item right here, this, if I right click this, it should open this little menu here. So as you can see, I've unlocked 4 out of 15 recipes, and basically a recipe unlocks when you throw the item into the Elementifier. So if I, for example, take my iron ingot, for example, and I throw it into the Elementifier together with my elemental shard, it should add it to my counter. Yeah, 5, and I now have the recipe right here. This is easy to remember what a recipe actually is. As you can see, there's also a second page for all of the other ones. So I'm not actually going to reveal what all of them are. That's for you to find out when you play this data pack, because I'm actually going to release this on CurseForge for all of you to download. If this gets enough attention, I may update this with even more recipes, or if you understand my terrible codes, feel free to edit it and add more conversions, and I'd be happy to review them and look at how you made it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. If you're more into history videos, make sure to subscribe to my main channel where I cover the history of Minecraft versions. Thank you for watching and stay safe.